He believes this is a Democrat hoax, as he says, but also that people are kind of overemphasizing the question of his relationship. And he's obviously said that he had no knowledge whatsoever of the solicitation of underage prostitution before that plea by Epstein.
Donald Trump says the so-called Epstein files should be released in an abrupt about-face, saying that he has got nothing to hide. The US president told Republican members of Congress to vote to release the files, which he called a Democrat hoax. Dozens of Republicans have been expected to rebel in an upcoming vote, despite Trump sending personal lobbying messages against it. Lara Spirit is Washington correspondent for The Times. Hello, Lara.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm very well, but just reading out that queue is a bit dizzying, isn't it? So can you tell us where we find ourselves today with the Epstein files and give us your thoughts on why?
Yes, so tomorrow the House will vote on that measure to release the Epstein files in full. We knew even before President Trump's quite staggering reversal last night in a post on Truth Social that vote was looking all but guaranteed to pass, that a critical number of Republican members of the House were prepared to defy Trump's previous claims that it was a Democratic hoax, previous and clear lobbying efforts summoning one to a meeting in the White House Situation Room, for example, one wavering member of Congress to try and persuade them not to go forward and back this proposal to release the files. Also having a very extraordinary public breakdown in relations with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the once loyal Republican Congresswoman from Georgia, in part over her demand to release these files in full. And she has claimed that that is behind her big fallout. So for that reason, it was surprising perhaps to see Trump yesterday say that actually these files should be released. He says we have nothing to hide. In many ways, this is him getting ahead of an eventuality that was basically inevitable at this point. As I say, they were very, very likely to pass this measure in the House. Does it actually change anything with regard to whether we're going to see the full Epstein files or not? Well, that is the interesting question, because in the Senate, it still faces very tough odds. Democrats hold 47 seats. They'll need 60 votes on this to pass that through the Senate. We don't know from John Thune, the majority leader in the Senate, whether or not they're even going to have a vote on this, nor do we know, crucially, whether Trump is prepared to sign it into law. So many unknowns still around about this at the moment. And it's just very interesting to see, as you say, Trump change his position.
Yeah. And Lara, clear something up for me, and I'm sorry if this is a very, very basic question, but the Epstein files, when we talk about them, those are different to the Epstein emails, the cache of which seems to be quite giving in terms of information and incrimination, or are the emails all in the files too?
Yeah, so the emails, as you say, we've seen more than 20,000 of those released last week by lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee. Those were subpoenaed from the Epstein estate by that group of lawmakers who are trying to get to the bottom of this. Of course, the Epstein files is much more expansive. It encompasses a massive range of documents that, of course, we haven't yet seen, so we don't know the contents of them yet. But it's safe to say that those 20,000 emails, of course, are not the full files as we know them, even though, of course, they were a very, very extensive series of documentation that journalists still to this day pouring through.
And is it possible, Lara, that Donald Trump and his team have seen much more of what's in the Epstein files and emails and anything else to come than anybody else has, and therefore they do believe that Donald Trump is very much in the clear and not about to be incriminated?
Well, that's the big question. Trump has, we should say, not been accused of any wrongdoing. He's not been accused of taking part in the sex trafficking operations of Epstein. And indeed, last week on Friday, he ordered the Justice Department to look into some of Epstein's links with prominent donors and Democrats. Clearly, he believes this is a Democrat hoax, as he says, but also that people are kind of overemphasizing the question of his relationship. And he's obviously said that he had no knowledge whatsoever of the solicitation of underage prostitution before that plea by Epstein in 2018. and 8. And so for that reason, he obviously thinks that there's been a big over-exaggeration of his particular case in this, and that there should be a greater focus elsewhere. And that's something, of course, that the Epstein files will seek to answer.
So you've told us a bit about all of the shenanigans that it's caused within the Republican Party, but what about out on Main Street? Now, with all of this whirlwind and merry-go-round of different cries from Donald Trump and his team about what they believe lies behind all of this, what's the effect on voters?
Well, it's a very good question. And actually, it's interesting that you asked that, because at this particular time, Trump is preparing to go on the offensive on the question of affordability. So we will see him talk about that at a McDonald's event tonight, for example. Clearly, the Republicans are worried after, almost a fortnight ago, they had a very difficult set of off-year election results, not just, of course, Zohran Mamdani's victory in New York, but much more consequentially in Virginia and New Jersey, as well as some other down ballot races elsewhere. So they are clearly concerned about this question about affordability, whether prices are going up or not. And Trump has been last night, while he was posting about the Epstein files, saying actually he wants Republicans to get back on message. He wants them to refocus on this question of affordability, talking to voters about what Republicans, in their view, are doing to try to bring down the cost of living, something that Trump was very, very focused about campaigning on during the election itself, and which now they're trying to kind of get on the front foot on again. And you'll see perhaps some measures in the coming days that they'll want to talk about more. The message from Trump there to many of his Republican lawmakers is the more you talk about Epstein, the less you talk about these other priorities that we are trying to work on, and the more likely you are to damage your own electoral prospects in the process.
And Lara, in this country, when there has been a discussion about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, there are so many normal people who just want him now to tell tales about what happened, about what he saw, about who else was there, to be a helpful part of an investigation, something that he once promised to do, but we have seen no sign of him actually doing it. Is there the same sense from the American electorate that actually what they want from their president is to be more helpful to the victims of Epstein's crimes by simply telling everybody what he knows? Because he was definitely in the circle at some point.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when you talk to Democrats, they will say, actually, we're not over-focusing on Epstein. We think this is something that has broad cut through with many people in the electorate. There's obviously some irony in the fact that it was Democrats who used to be quieter on this than many in the MAGA Republican base, who have been kind of foremost advocates for full transparency on the case of Epstein. So when it comes to kind of partisanship on this, I think that's quite interesting. But I think, as I say, clearly the White House now wanting to get on the front foot on other questions of affordability at this point, and convinced that actually voters care much more about the money in their pockets than they do about this, important though it is.
What's the McDonald's event tonight?
Yeah,
and are
what
you
is
going?
Yeah.
You're going to have a Happy Meal, Lara. What's in your Happy Meal?
There is a McDonald's Impact Summit, and it is not actually just President Trump who will be there. There are also going to be appearances from some, including leading Democrats like Wes Moore, governor in Maryland, of course, and kind of a great stage for talking about these questions of affordability. For Trump, of course, it's redolent of that very popular appearance and now fabled appearance in the McDonald's drive-through that you'll remember during the election.
Oh,
Do you remember this?
I do.
Which I would be very unsurprised if that's what we're mentioning of tonight. So worth keeping an eye on. I think it'll be in the early hours of the morning for you.
I'll stay up for it.
We'll be what?
To make sure he gets my drink right. I think you're a medium fries kind of gal, woman after my own heart. Thank you very much. Lara Spirit is Washington correspondent for The Times.
Quarter pounder with cheese and a chocolate shake. That's what I'd go for.
That's
what I do go for. Let's just be honest. Thank you, Lara.